Imagine a country where 97% of the land is a barren, scorching void, a landscape so hostile that it has spent millennia trying to push humanity into the sea. This is Egypt, the cradle of civilization, a nation that has survived against all odds for 5,000 years. But today, Egypt is facing a ticking time bomb. With a population exploding toward 160 million and a food supply that is literally drying up, the land of the pharaohs is on the brink of a total systemic collapse. However, deep in the heart of the Sahara, something impossible is happening. Egypt isn't just fighting for survival, they are terraforming the desert. They are building the world's largest artificial river, a multi-billion-dollar engineering marvel designed to turn yellow sand into emerald green fields. Is this a brilliant masterstroke that will save the Arab world's most populous nation? Or is it a desperate gamble that will lead to financial ruin? Egypt is not just another country on the map. Located in the northeast corner of Africa, it serves as the literal bridge between continents and history. It is the birthplace of one of the oldest, most powerful, and longest-lasting civilizations on Earth. For centuries, Egypt has been a land of ancient conspiracies, architectural wonders, and deep geographical mysteries. But when you strip away the gold of the pyramids, you're left with a harsh reality. A total area of about 400,000 square miles, where 97% of the terrain is uninhabitable desert. Throughout history, life here hasn't just been difficult, it has been a constant battle against the elements. Even today, in the age of satellites and skyscrapers, nearly 90% of Egypt remains completely empty. How then did the ancient Egyptians manage to build empires that dominated the world? The answer lies in a single, winding blue line, the mighty Nile River. Stretching over 4,000 miles, the Nile is the longest river on the planet, and without it, Egyptian civilization simply would not exist. There is an old saying, Egypt is the Nile, and the Nile is Egypt. This isn't just poetry, it's a biological fact. If you look at a satellite image of Egypt at night, the pattern is hauntingly beautiful. While the rest of the Sahara is draped in total darkness, a thin, vibrant vein of light snakes through the desert and fans out at the coast. That light represents 110 million people huddled together along the banks of the river. Because of the Nile, Egypt has been an agricultural powerhouse for millennia, despite being surrounded by the hottest desert on Earth. During the peak of the Roman Empire, Egypt was known as the breadbasket of the world, providing over 30% of the empire's entire wheat supply. Today, that legacy continues. The Nile remains the nation's absolute lifeline, supporting 90% of the population. The remaining 10% is scattered along the Red Sea coast or in isolated oases like Matro and Sinai. This extreme concentration exists because 80% of Egypt's fertile land is glued to the riverbanks. It's the reason Egypt remains a global top 5 producer of dates, onions, and garlic. But the very river that created Egypt is now struggling to keep up with its growth. The crisis is one of sheer numbers. Between 1920 and 2020, Egypt's population didn't just grow, it exploded, increasing eightfold. As of 2024, the population has surged past 110 million people, making it the most populous country in the Arab world. Projections show that by 2050, that number will hit a staggering 160 million. Here is the math that keeps Egyptian planners awake at night. You cannot feed 160 million people using only 4% of your land for farming. To make matters worse, rapid urbanization is eating the very land it relies on. Every decade, Egypt loses about 2% of its agricultural territory to concrete and asphalt. If this trend continues, by 2050, the country won't just be hungry, it will be facing a catastrophic famine. Egypt effectively has a 26-year deadline to reinvent its geography. Currently, the government is forced to import 50% of its food supply from abroad. These imports are a massive drain on the national GDP, leaving the economy vulnerable to global price spikes and supply chain disruptions. To break this cycle of dependency, the Egyptian government has launched one of the most ambitious engineering projects in human history, the New Delta. The centerpiece of this project is the construction of the world's largest artificial river. The goal is to transform 9,000 square kilometers, nearly 2.2 million acres, of desolate desert into a lush agricultural zone. Now, this isn't just a fantasy. Egypt has already proven it can do the impossible. Between 2015 and 2020, they successfully converted 5,000 square kilometers of desert into farmland. But the new delta, announced by President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi in 2021, is on a completely different scale. To understand how this works, we have to look at the plumbing of the Nile. The river begins in Lake Victoria, Uganda, and travels north until it empties into the Mediterranean. Currently, water is distributed to farms through various branches, like the Rosetta branch. Historically, the drainage water, the runoff from these farms, was considered waste and allowed to flow out into the sea. The new Delta project changes that. Instead of letting that water go to waste, Egypt is diverting it into a massive artificial channel. This man-made river starts near the Rosetta branch and runs parallel to the Mediterranean coastline for about 50 kilometers before reaching the edge of the Nile Delta. From there, the engineering gets truly sci-fi. Massive pipes, each 3 meters in diameter, transport the water 64 kilometers deep into the heart of the desert to the Al Hammam water treatment plant. This facility is a beast. It's designed to treat 7.5 million cubic meters of water every single day. Once purified, this water is pumped out to irrigate the sands. Simultaneously, on the eastern side of the project, direct pipelines bring fresh water from the Nile. By combining these two water sources, Egypt aims to increase its total agricultural land by 23%. This isn't just about growing more onions, it's about national security. This new green corridor will create 5 million jobs and produce a massive surplus of crops that can be easily exported through the nearby Mediterranean ports. The progress is moving at breakneck speed. Satellite images from 2023 show the project is already 40% complete. In June of that same year, the first rush of fresh water was released into the channels, and circular center pivot irrigation fields are already appearing in places where nothing but dust existed for millions of years. If they pull this off, Egypt's destiny changes forever. But there is a darker side to this story. While Egypt is building rivers to save its people, it is also making financial decisions that have many experts terrified. Since 2015, the government has been building a new administrative capital in the middle of the desert, 50 kilometers away from Cairo. This city is meant to be a shimmering metropolis of the future, but it has come at a staggering cost. The investment has pushed Egypt into a massive debt crisis, with over $58 billion in liabilities. This economic desperation has forced Egypt to make a deal that has sent shockwaves through the Middle East. Recently, Egypt signed an agreement with the United Arab Emirates to sell the coastal city of Ras El Hekma for $35 billion. While the way plans to turn it into a new Dubai with world-class infrastructure, many Egyptian analysts are sounding the alarm. They argue that by selling off entire cities to foreign powers, the government is sacrificing Egypt's sovereignty just to stay afloat. Critics fear that Egypt is no longer in the driver's seat of its own destiny and must now align its foreign policy with whatever the UAE dictates. Furthermore, Egypt's role in the ongoing Israel-Palestine conflict has brought immense international and domestic criticism, adding political instability to an already volatile economic situation. The country is walking a razor-thin tightrope. On one side, you have the brilliant, visionary promise of the new Delta, an artificial river that could feed millions and secure the nation's future. On the other side, you have a mountain of debt and controversial land sales that could undermine everything they've built. Egypt is a land of extremes. It is a place where the most ancient history meets the most futuristic engineering. Whether the world's largest artificial river will be enough to save this civilization from the pressures of the 21st century remains to be seen. One thing is certain, the world is watching. If Egypt succeeds, they will have provided a blueprint for how humanity can survive in a warming, overcrowded world. If they fail, the consequences will be felt far beyond the banks of the Nile. What do you think? Is this artificial river a stroke of genius or a billion-dollar band-aid on a sinking ship? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this deep dive into Egypt's future fascinating, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories on how geography and engineering are shaping our world. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.